This is Chicago. From above, it looks like one of the most well-organised cities in America. The streets form an almost perfect grid that stretches for miles in every direction. The downtown is packed with some of the tallest skyscrapers in the world. And unlike most American cities that built highways right through their cores, Chicago kept its lakefront open and turned it into 25 miles of continuous public parkland. But what makes Chicago even more unusual is how it managed to stay dense without becoming overwhelming. It is not as compressed as New York, but it is nothing like the sprawling suburbs you see in cities like Dallas or Atlanta. Chicago found a middle ground that most American cities never figured out. So how did Chicago end up like this? And what makes it work so differently from other major cities? Chicago's street grid is one of the most crucial aspects of its design. According to a study from 2019, it is the closest approximation of a single perfect grid out of 100 major world cities. The grid is divided into north, south, east, and west. At the very centre is the intersection of State Street and Madison Street, which acts as the 0 point for the entire system. From there, addresses increase in a perfectly logical way. Every 800 numbers equals 1 mile. So if you are at 3200 north, you know you are exactly 4 miles north of Madison. This makes navigation incredibly simple compared to most cities where addresses make no sense. But Chicago is not just organised, it is also incredibly dense in a way that actually works. The neighbourhoods around downtown, the near north side, and the lakefront are some of the densest in the country, with tens of thousands of people per square mile. But the density gradually steps down as you move outward. This creates layered density that supports transit, walkable neighbourhoods, and street life while still giving residents actual space to live. You can live in a residential area with a yard and still walk to restaurants, bars, and shops. That combination is incredibly rare in American cities. Chicago also has one of the best public transit systems in the country. The L has 8 lines stretching over 165 miles of track and serving 145 stations. It carries over 420,000 riders per day. That is more daily riders than the entire metro systems of cities like Miami, Denver, or Seattle. And the network actually works. Most of it is elevated, which makes it cheaper to maintain than subways and keeps it visible so people actually use it. One of the most distinctive features is the Loop, a rectangular track of elevated rail that circles downtown. This design became the backbone of the entire network. Nearly every line connects into it. Because of this, even if you live miles away in the neighbourhoods, you can get downtown quickly and transfer to another line without much hassle. The system also connects directly to both airports, O'Hare and Midway. You can fly into Chicago and be downtown in 45 minutes without ever getting in a car. Compare this to a city like Los Angeles. LA has a larger metro area than Chicago, but its transit system carries fewer than 200,000 riders per day. Most people in LA have no choice but to drive because the transit network barely exists. Chicago built a system that actually competes with driving, and that makes the entire city function differently. The lakefront is another thing that sets Chicago apart. 25 miles of continuous public parkland along Lake Michigan, no private development, no condos blocking the view, just parks, beaches, bike paths, and open space that anyone can access for free. This did not happen by accident. It was planned over a century ago and protected ever since. Most cities sold off their waterfronts to developers. Chicago kept it public. On summer weekends, the lakefront is packed. People running, biking, playing volleyball, having picnics. It functions as the city's backyard. And because the lakefront is public and accessible by transit, it does not matter if you live in a wealthy neighbourhood or a working class one. Everyone can use it. That is extremely rare for a major American city. Beyond the lakefront, Chicago has over 600 public parks spanning more than 8,800 acres. Parks are distributed throughout the city, not just concentrated downtown. Almost every neighborhood has green space within walking distance. This was part of the original city planning, and it still defines how the city feels today. Chicago's density also keeps housing relatively affordable compared to other major cities. The median home price is around $360,000. That is less than half of what you would pay in New York. It is also cheaper than Miami, Denver, Seattle, and even Atlanta. Part of this is because Chicago is not growing as fast as those cities, but part of it is because Chicago actually built enough housing. The mix of single-family homes, 2 flats, small apartment buildings, and high-rises creates a range of options at different price points. Most cities only build luxury high-rises or single-family suburbs. Nothing in between. Chicago has that middle ground, and it keeps prices more reasonable. The culture of Chicago also reflects its layout. Neighborhoods have strong identities. Wicker Park, Lincoln Park, Pilsen, Wrigleyville, each one feels distinct. People identify with their neighborhood, not just the city as a whole. And because the city is walkable and dense, neighborhoods have their own commercial strips with local bars, restaurants and shops. You do not need to drive downtown for everything. Your neighborhood has what you need. This creates a different kind of urban life than you see in sprawling cities. In a place like Phoenix or Houston, you drive to everything. Your neighborhood is just where you sleep. All the activity is scattered across the metro in isolated pockets. In Chicago, neighborhoods are self-contained. You can live, work, and socialize within a few miles. That makes the city feel more connected even though it is huge. Chicago also has a massive food scene that reflects its diversity. Deep dish pizza is what tourists know, but locals eat everything. Mexican food in Pilsen, Polish food in Jefferson Park, Italian beef sandwiches citywide. The restaurant scene is world class, but it is not concentrated in one expensive downtown district like in some cities. Great food exists in every neighborhood at every price point. You can get an incredible meal for $15 or $200 depending on where you go. The job market is another factor. Chicago is a major hub for finance, logistics, manufacturing, healthcare, and technology. It is not as dominant as New York in finance or San Francisco in tech, but it has a diversified economy that makes it more stable. When one industry struggles, others keep the city afloat. This diversity also means there are jobs at all skill levels, not just high-paying tech jobs or low-paying service work. Middle-class jobs still exist in Chicago in a way they have disappeared from many other cities. The weather is obviously a downside. Winters are brutal, cold, windy, snowy. This is not a place where you can be outside comfortably year-round like in California or Florida, but the weather also shapes the culture. Chicagoans take summer seriously. When it is nice out, everyone is outside. The lakefront, the parks, the outdoor patios. People maximize the warm months because they know winter is coming. Crime is another issue that Chicago struggles with. The city has high crime rates in certain neighborhoods, particularly on the south and west sides. This is a serious problem that affects thousands of residents. But it is also important to understand that crime in Chicago is highly concentrated. Most neighborhoods are safe. The areas where tourists and most residents spend time have crime rates similar to other big cities. The media often portrays Chicago as a war zone, which is not accurate. But the city does have deep inequality and areas with serious violence that need to be addressed. Chicago is also dealing with population decline. The city has been losing residents for decades. It peaked at 3.6 million people in 1950 and now has around 2.7 million. The broader metro area is still over 9 million, but the city itself is shrinking. This is partly because of suburbanization, partly because of crime and taxes, and partly because other cities are growing faster and attracting young people. But population decline also has an upside. It keeps housing affordable, it reduces pressure on infrastructure, and it means Chicago is not dealing with the explosive growth problems that cities like Austin or Miami are facing. Chicago is a mature city. It is not the hottest new destination, but it works. The bones are good, the infrastructure is there, and for people who want urban, living without paying New York or San Francisco prices, Chicago is one of the best options in the country. Chicago is not perfect. It has serious challenges with crime, inequality, and population loss. The winters are miserable, taxes are high, but it is also one of the most functional cities in America. The grid works, the transit works, the density works, the lakefront is incredible, the neighbourhoods have character, and it is still affordable compared to other major cities. Chicago figured out how to be a big city without completely sacrificing livability, and that is why it still stands out more than a century after it was planned. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more videos breaking down cities like this. Drop a comment. Would you live in Chicago, or is the winter a deal breaker? See you in the next one.